Hello everyone, welcome to Deeksha online class. Today we are going to do Animal Diversity Lecture 2. In the earlier class, we have already come across the classification of kingdom into Archaebacteria, Eubacteria, which is together called as Monera. Then we came across Protista, where we have unicellular but eukaryotes, whereas in Monera we had unicellular prokaryotes. Then we came across fungi, which is also known as mycota. Then we came across plantae and animalia. In today's class, we are continuing the animal kingdom. In the previous class, we have learned porifera or pore-bearing structure, also known as sponges. We saw Cnidaria, which are subclassified into coelentrates, coelentrata and ctenophora. In today's class, we will be concentrating on Platyhelminthes, nematode and Annelida. So let's start off with today's class. So the first phyla we are going to study is phylum Platyhelminthes. Phylum Platyhelminthes is also called as flatworms because these organisms are acoelomate. So let's read about it one by one. Now these organisms exhibit tissue or rather organ level of organization because already the organs have started forming and you can see a organ to organ there is interaction which has started off. Other than this, we also see these organisms are bilateria. So, bilateral symmetry can be exhibited here. They are triploblastic, but they are acoelomate. Now, the question is, why they are acoelomate? What is coelom? I have told you coelom means body cavity. So where should this cavity come? The cavity is generally present between the body wall and alimentary canal. But in this case what happens? The cavity is filled with a group of parenchyma cell which is called as mesenchyma. So what should have happened? There should have been a cavity in between the body wall and alimentary canal. But this cavity, since it is filled by parenchyma cells, this is called as acoelomate. Now let's move on to the next criteria, that is digestion. Digestion is completely absent in cestoda. Why? Because these are endoparasites. Endoparasites which reside inside the host of organism. In several conditions it is liver cells. They draw nourishment completely from it. In some other conditions they also live in small intestine. In here also they can draw the complete nourished food. So there is no digestive system in class cestoda. But in other forms there could be certain branched form of digestive system, but even in this case there is no anus. So we can say digestive system is either absent, if present it is incomplete. Why? Because there is mouth but no anus. What about excretion? For the first time we see proper excretion happening with the help of first formed cells for excretion named as flame cells or solenocytes, or It is also called as Protonefradia. What do you mean by this? Proto means first. So, Protonefradia. Nefradia is the word from nephron. So, first formed nephrons can be seen. Nervous system in this case has a paired ganglia. What is ganglia? A group of neural cells is called as ganglia. Here ganglion, and here since you have two of them, it is a paired ganglia. This forms the brain with two far separated nerve cords. So, you have two nerve cords. Always remember, in invertebrates there is presence of two nerve cord. In vertebrates like us, we have single nerve cord. So, once more repeating all the points in this slide. As you can see, this slide is very important. We have organ system level of organization, triploblastic, bilateral symmetry, acoelomate condition. Digestive system is either absent or if present, it is without anus. Excretion can be seen with the help of specialized cells called as protonefradia, flame cells or solenocyte. There is a reason why we call it as flame cells. If you look at the organism, which is a flatworm, assuming this to be as the excretory system, they have cilia present here. These cilia, when you look, it looks like the flame of a candle, because of which we call it as flame cells. Nervous system is a paired ganglia and there is two nerve cords, which generally appears like a ladder. So, this is the two nerve cord and they are connected to each other. So, they look like a ladder. Moving on, we see that the reproduction is easy in these organisms as they are endoparasites. They can't go in search of mate. They are hermaphrodites. What is hermaphrodites? Hermaphrodites are bisexual organism which has both male and female being present in the same organism. So, these hermaphrodites which has both male and female organisms in the same form, these become endoparasite. Now, except schistosoma. Schistosomas are not hermaphrodites. One example under Platyhelminthes is liver fluke. The name goes with the place where this parasite is hosted or is resting. One is they generally affect or infect liver and their shape also looks similar to that of liver. Moving on, we are going to summarize the entire Platyhelminthes. So, Platyhelminthes, if we have to see where do they exist? Platyhelminthes, their habitat, in most cases they are endoparasites. What is their habit? They are organ system level of organization. They are triploblastic, acoelomate and bilaterally symmetrical forms. If we understand digestion or digestive system, it is either absent or incomplete as these forms do not have anus. Excretion you can see as for the first time Proto-Nefradia is formed, which is also called as solenocyte or flame cell. We don't discuss locomotion. Reason, there is no locomotory organ as they are endoparasite. Moving on, we go to nervous system. Nervous system has paired ganglion or ganglia, from which one pair of or two nerve cord comes down. We can easily understand reproduction as these are endoparasite, they can't search any other mate. So, these are hermaphrodites. These exhibit internal fertilization, development may be indirect. Example, liver fluke. So, I hope you are clear with this concept of Platyhelminthes. So, now we move on to Achelminthes. Achelminthes, also known as nematodes or Nemathelminthes or roundworms. Reason, when we cut a cross section of this worm, we find it round because of presence of pseudocoelom. Let's read one by one each of their characteristic feature. So, these organisms are again exhibiting organ system level of organization. These are bilateral symmetrical, then you have triploblastic, pseudocoelom. Why do you call it pseudocoelom? Because the coelom is not formed from mesoderm. It has a different kind of derivation. It is either derived from endoderm or these form pouch-like structures. So, they are called as pseudocoelom. As I was telling, the cross section is 100% cylindrical forms these are, and cross section is round, hence we call it as roundworms. They are either free living, which is generally in terrestrial habitat, parasitic on either plants or animals. So, you can subclassify Achelminthes into two types, free living or parasitic. So, we move on to the next slide. Let's see some pic of these. So, the first one here you can see is Senor habditis elegans, which is a free living form. Loa loa, also known as pinworm, which affects the eye. It can make people blind also. So, these are two forms we can see as examples here. Continuing with our characteristics, as I was telling, these are triploblastic, bilateral symmetrical and pseudocoelomate. Why they are called triploblastic? They have endoderm, mesoderm and ectoderm. Why they are called bilaterally symmetrical? These organisms can be cut through only one plane. And as I told, pseudocoelomate because their derivation is not from mesoderm. They form into pouches or They are formed from endodermal derivatives. The next thing we understand is alimentary canal, which is complete with one end to be as mouth, the other end we have anus. This also exhibits muscular pharynx. So now we can understand that gradually we are developing or evolving in the process of digestive system. Until Porifera and Coelenterata, we did not discuss much on digestive system. In Platyhelminthes, we said it is either absent or incomplete, but for the first time, Ascalminthes exhibits complete digestive system. Moving on, excretory system exhibits excretory pore. Excretory pore is also called as Rennet cells. So, this is the evolved form of excretory system. So, we are seeing some pic over here. This pic is of Ascaris lumbricoides. Ascaris lumbricoides is a parasitic form of nematode. Now, in this case, you can see that the longer one is a female and the shorter one is a male. So, can we say that here we exhibit sexual dimorphism? What is sexual dimorphism? We can easily distinguish a male from a female. How? Females are longer than males, and in males you can see the cloaca or the tail end is curved. So, let us see where is the excretory pore. We see excretory pore near the mouth region of the animal. This is the mouth. As we have discussed, digestive system is complete. It opens through the anus. You can see anus here. In case of male, we have a common opening called as cloaca. Now understand this word very clearly. Cloaca is common opening for digestive waste, then you have excretory waste, and also for giving out reproductive products. In this case, it will be male gamete. So, you can see cloacal aperture present only in males, but whereas in females there is presence of anus. This is also another part of sexual dimorphism. Other than this, you see gonopore or the receiving part of the male gamete is present in females but not in males. So, this is how you can differentiate a male Ascaris from a female Ascaris. You can look at the cross section of the male Ascaris. You can see how there is a digestive system part we can see here. We can see the dorsal line, what we could see here as present in this region. We can see that all the tissues are as a cylindrical pipes. We call these as tube within tube, meaning to tell, assuming this whole organism to be as a tube, inside that I have another tube and another tube. So, assume our own body. We are also bilaterally symmetrical, inside which we have a tube like structure which is the digestive system, which opens from mouth and ends at anus. We also have tubes such as respiratory tube, which opens from nostrils and enters up till the lungs. So, we have certain tubes within a bigger tube. In the third pic, we can see here it is a magnified image of the post-anal papillae which is present in the males. Why do we need these papillae? These are the symbols, or what should I say, these are organs which exhibits or helps during reproductive process, or that helps during the cohabitation of these two organisms. Through the cloacal apparature, as I said, the male gametes will be passed. I hope this slide is clear to you all. Moving on, sexes, as we just now discussed, is separate. They are dioecious, just not separate. They are sexual dimorphism is exhibited. So, we can see male and female being present. Hence, we are calling them as sexes are separate or dioecious or unisexual. As I told you, females are generally longer than males. Males have a curved tail. Fertilization is internal. Development now depends from organism to organism. Some give rise to a young one which looks absolutely same as adult. In some other forms, we see larva being present. So, larva present. In this case, larva is absent. So, the development may or may not be together, meaning to tell it could be or not be direct or indirect. So, these are sectional view we see of Ascaris. You can see testis present in case of males and uterus and ovary present in case of females. So, before we move on to Annelida, a quick review and recap of the same Ascalmenthes. So, Ascalmenthes, where does it live? What is the habitat of these organisms? These are free living, generally in terrestrial forms, and certain forms are parasitic. Coming to habit, what habit do we see in these organisms? The habit what we are seeing is organ system level of organization. We see them triploblastic. Then we also see them as bilateral, symmetry. Digestive system well developed, it is complete. In males, it opens through cloaca. In males, and in females, it opens through anus. Then we saw excretory system. Excretory system we saw as excretory pore, which is also called as rennet cell. Nervous system, it has almost similar type of nervous system to the Platyhelminthes. Here also you have paired ganglia with a pair of nerve cord. Reproduction, we see here organisms to be unisexual, with sexes being separate. They are exhibiting sexual dimorphism. What are the sexual dimorphism we have seen? Females are longer, males are shorter, males have curved tail. Other than that, we saw cloacal aperture being present in males and gonopore being present in females. Fertilization is internal. Development may or may not be direct. So, direct or indirect. Example, Ascaris, Lumbre, coides. So I hope you have understood Ascalmenthes. We are moving on to Annelida, the last phylum what we are going to learn for the today's class. Annelida, the word is derived from annulus. In many cases we call it as annulata. Annulus means ring. If you have observed a earthworm, they have ring-like structure throughout the body. Each section is called as metamer, and the process is called as metamerism. Mere basically means sections, one part. So now where are these organisms generally available? They are generally aquatic, either marine or freshwater. Certain forms are terrestrial, like earthworm itself is terrestrial with the word earth coming, but it requires a lot of moisture. So all the organisms in this is free living, including the parasitic leech. Leech is also free living, but it is a ectoparasite. So the most important characteristic, as I told, they are metamerism. But if I have to summarize the complete habit of it, they are triploblastic, eucoelomate, bilaterally symmetrical, and organ system level of organization. So all are of higher variety. Moving on, we see some pictures of aquatic Annelida spirobranchus and terrestrial Annelida earthworm. So this is our earthworm here, which helps in making our land fertile and aerated. So the points what we are trying to understand here becomes the general characteristic of the phylum. So the most important points, as I told, there is presence of annulus rings, which is known as metamerism. Moving on to the locomotion. Locomotion is supported by the muscles. They have two types of muscle, longitudinal and circular. So along with these muscles, they have locomotory organ called as setae. How does this look? Setae looks S-shaped. S-shaped setae are present in which is a hair-like structure, very feeble there, breaks very easily. These setae help the organism to move on land. So a land example is earthworm. Whereas if I have to understand an example which is of water based, say Nereis. Nereis is an example which is aquatic form. They exhibit locomotions with the help of parapodia. Parapodia is a mass of muscle. You can just see a U-shaped structure. In some forms you see parapodia plus setae coming together. So in this we can see parapodia, which is also supported by setae. So these are the locomotory organ, mainly the muzzle, then comes setae and parapodia. So you can see the pic of earthworm here. So as I was saying, these are parapodias. You can make out it is a mass of cells, and on this there is presence of setae being present. Now a specialized form under Annelida is leech, which comes under Hirudinaria because it synthesizes a chemical in its saliva named as hirudin. Hirudin makes sure that the clotting Clotting does not happen in hirudin if hirudin is present. You know, leeches are sanguivores. What is sanguivores? Sanguivores are blood sucking or blood meal they take. Leech, once they fix on to any animal, in most cases it is cattle, it sucks the blood completely as much as possible or required for the leech. So it is a sanguivorous form. But we understand that in our body we have wound healing capacity as platelets. So when hirudin is mixed in the blood, platelets do not aggregate. So, in several cases in past, they used to use leech as a treatment for blood cancer because it has capacity to suck blood completely out. And not only that, now hirudin chemical is being synthesized in certain turnips. Turnip is a plant form, I get it, but it is genetically modified in such a way that hirudin is synthesized. This is given to those patients who have the issue of blood getting clotted. So, such heart patients whose blood gets clotted, this is given. But from Annelida point of view, we understand that hirudin is a chemical which is present in the saliva of leech, which do not allow the wound healing happening easily. Moving on, circulatory system, very important for us to understand here. We human have closed circulatory system, and in evolution for the first time Annelida exhibited closed circulatory system. I agree that it did not have the similar type like what we have, a heart pumping from one end and the blood reaches to all parts of body, but still it is commendable to tell that closed circulatory system is present in Annelida. Excretion is well developed, it is with the help of Nefradia. It just not removes the excretory waste, it also does osmoregulation. What is osmoregulation? Osmoregulation is water and electrolyte balance in our body. So, this one is being balanced is called as osmoregulation. So, neural system has paired ganglia. Again we see just like the earlier forms, we have paired ganglia, and this ganglia are connected dorsoventrally. So, you can see the entire thing connected like this, and then you see a nerve cord coming down. So, let us see the image of it. Okay. So, fine, we are missed out with the neural system image, but we understand that ganglia is being present in paired, and then they turn around in the organism like this near the esopharyngeal region, and this esopharyngeal region then it comes down as a nerve cord. Okay. Reproduction is sexual very highly. These organisms in most cases happens to be hermaphrodites, but as I told, Annelida are very high evolved organism. Though it is hermaphrodites, it exhibits cross fertilization. Now, you might be wondering that when both male and female reproductive part is there in the same organism, why not they go for self fertilization? It is way easier. Point 1, these organisms are motile organisms with very good locomotory system. So, they can locomote to the mate. Second, self fertilization do not bring in variation or evolution. For evolution, sexual reproduction is very important, and hence these exhibit cross fertilization, and hence reproduction is 100% sexual. Fertilization may be external or internal, depends from organism to organism. Development also may be direct where there is no larval form, or indirect where there is larval form. If a larval form is present, then it is called as trochophore larva. So, you can see the life cycle of an Annelida. It starts with the fertilized embryo, grows into a trochophore larva, which metamorphosizes to form metatrochophore larva, that further metamorphosizes to form nectochaetae larva, and finally it forms into a tubed worm which becomes sexually mature. Again the male and female comes together to fertilize. So, this is the life cycle of an Annelida. Moving on, we try to understand the most important organism, earthworm, which comes under phyla Annelida. So, when we are understanding earthworm, it is a reddish brown structure which is terrestrial in nature, invertebrate, inhabiting the layers of soil. This is the place. So, what we understand, as I told, the name itself suggests earth. So, these organisms live in earth. These live in earth and makes the soil aerated and fertile. Now, how does this happen? These organisms feed on soil and dry leaves and so on. The feces or the digestive waste which comes out is a manure in which the plants grow very well. Moreover, these animals live in burrows. So, if this is a land area, so they live like this. So, there is an organism here. So, when this organism lives like this in burrow continuously, the soil gets aerated because of their burrowing. So, these are reddish brown terrestrial invertebrates inhabiting the upper layer of the soil. In the day, it lives in burrows and comes out and leaves the fecal traces in the outer part. So, if you go to a little outskirt region, in city areas nowadays it is very difficult to see soil. If the region is very fertile, you can see that in the night or in evening when you see a ground, it is completely flat. But on the other hand, next day early morning when you walk, you might see a debris just like this being present. So, you should understand that in and around this there must be a worm being present, and this debris what you see of soil is nothing but feces, which makes the soil humus and very fertile. So, these are certain two forms of earthworm, or rather the two forms what is available in India, Ferretima and Lumbricus. Now, you can see this region, very important region, we call it clitellum. In some time I will be explaining about this. We come to the structure of earthworm, morphology. How does it look? Just now we saw they are long, cylindrical. Each of them have metameres. So, let us see once more the pic. So, I hope you can see very clearly there is section after section. So, each of these are metameres and they are long and cylindrical. Dorsal surface has a mid-dorsal line running longitudinally. So, if this is the organism, you can very clearly see there is a mid-dorsal line which is longitudinal in manner. The ventral surface has genital pores. So, like this you have genital pores on the lower surface of the earthworm. Anterior end has mouth or prostomium. So, now assuming this is the starting point mouth, this is the mouth, what I call it as prostomium. So, we will see more number of pictures in the coming slides, we will understand it better. So, this is the dorsal view of the earthworm and this happens to be the ventral view. So, what did we learn? In ventral view, we can see the genital pores being present. In the upper part or the starting part, we have mouth region. Mouth starts with the metamere called as prostomium. So, this is a larger section. Can you make out? This is the prostomium. Now, prostomium, the second section is called as peristomium. Prostomium and peristomium together have regeneration property. Now, why is this so important? We know these animals burrow the ground and live. When they burrow the ground and live, what happens? They are trying to burrow with their mouth. The first part, the mouth, can get affected. It might get damaged. So, these are high regeneration capacity. The first segment is peristomium that contains mouth, as I discussed. The second or rather the 14th to 16th segment is the glandular clitellum. You remember in the main diagram I had highlighted two regions. This region is clitellum. So here you can see this enlarged view or enlarged portion is clitellum. So what is clitellum? Clitellum is copulatory organ. What is copulatory organ? The sexual organ or the genital organ which helps in reproduction. So copulatory is seen in 14th to 16th segment. Hence, if we are dividing the entire part, say the first part is prostomium, stoma means mouth, prostomium. Second section is peritoneum. Now obviously we have lot of sections which is present throughout the earthworm, correct? So I am having so many sections. Now assuming I count and reach this region of 14th to 16th region, there is clitellum, and as I told, very important part, it is the reproductive part. So can I divide now the organism into three parts? The first part is preclitellar, before the clitellum starts. This region is clitellar and this region is post-clitellar. This is how we are dividing the entire earthworm. So you can see another pic of the clitellum region and all given here. You can see the prostomium and peristomium region. You can see the clitellar region, which is also associated to genital papillae as it is a genital organ. They have also spoken about setae, which is a locomotory organ, but it is not clear in this pic. So in forthcoming pictures I will be showing you the pic of setae. Moving on, the intersegmental groove of the 5th to the 9th segment has spermathecal aperture. What is spermathecal aperture? Sperma or the sperm. Theca means sac. So sperm sac, a sac with a hole. So what happens? This is a sac and this is a spermathecal sac. Now we know that earthworm undergoes cross fertilization. So this is clitellum. So what is happening from the clitellum? This will be receiving here, spermatheca will be receiving sperms which will be stored in the other organism, which will further lead to production of new earthworms. Male genital pore is present in the ventrolateral side in the 18th part and female in the 14th segment. I have already told these organisms are hermaphrodites. Since they are hermaphrodites, they have both male and female part. Though they are not going to fuse, but we need to separate them by sections. So male part is in which section? 18th segment. Where is the female part? In the 14th segment. Why near the 14th segment? If you remember, 8th to the 14th segment, what is present? Clitellum is present. Clear? So this is how the sections are divided. Numerous small pores called as nephridiopores are there. What is nephridiopores? It is Nefradia. Now I would like to highlight here that these earthworms are basically aquatic forms or they prefer moisture. Aquatic forms of earthworm give out excretory product as ammonia. Ammonia is highly toxic form. So they can't keep this toxic form for a very long time. So if this is our earthworm and I have several sections here, each sections have nephridia. So this also has, this also has, this also have and so on. If I have to be even more clear in stating, I would state that except prostomium in the mouth, clitellum and anus, except these, all of them have Nefradia. So, again I tell, except these three things, all the metameres have Nefradia. So, very important for us to understand. Now, why don't we have in prostomium? Because it is a mouth region, anus because it is going to give out fecal waste, and in clitellum it is copulatory organ. Other than this, in every section we have Nefradiopore. Each segment has S-shaped setae. As I told, this is the S-shaped setae are the locomotory organ in case of earthworm. Earthworm are not aquatic and hence we don't see parapodia, only setae is present. Again there is exception. We don't see it in case of first, that is prostomium, last which is the anus and clitellum. Except these three regions, we see in every section S-shaped setae being present. Now, as I promised you all, we can see the S-shaped setae. Now, can you see these pores here, each of them? So, these pores are the regions where you see setae. So, you can expect 4 setae being present in each metamere. So, can you see these lines, concentric lines here? These concentric lines separate one metamere to another. If you are seeing a real time image, this is the setae. Can you see how fragile they are? You can't even make out. So, this is setae. So, as I told, they are very fragile, they can break off, but still they use it as locomotory organ. Now, we can easily make out which is a male part and which is a female part. Now, you can understand here, there is a small pore, this is the oviduct, and what is this? The vasa deferentia. This region is the mouth region. These are certain magnified images of earthworm for you to understand better. You can also see this region is a little hurted, but as I told, it has high rate of regeneration, it will regenerate quickly. Now, from outside morphology, we are moving inside to understand the anatomy. Body is covered by cuticle, very important for us to understand. There should be a protective covering around these body and there is cuticle for that. They have two types of muscles. They are circular muscle and longitudinal muscle. These muscles not only are present, these muscles are not only present just as a body structure, they also help in locomotion. These muscles, innermost region is coelomic. Why coelomic? We have already discussed from Annelida onwards, we will have eucoelomates. So, what is the type of the cell? We are going in great detail here, understand it. Epidermis or the outer layer of earthworm has what type of cells? It has columnar epithelium. I repeat once more, there is a outer covering made up of cuticle. It has epidermis with columnar epithelium, which is also glandular. Why glandular? It needs to keep itself moist since it is a terrestrial form and a very young form. Alimentary canal is straight. It is a complete alimentary canal with mouth and anus. Mouth opens into buccal cavity. First three segments are restricted to that. Buccal cavity continues into pharynx, which starts from the fourth segment onwards. So, you can see in this diagram very clearly the digestive system. I will explain it here and then move on to points. You can see the mouth region here very clearly. Then you can see 1, 2 and 3 region dedicated to the buccal cavity. Then you have from the fourth region starting off pharynx. Around the eighth segment you can see esophagus starts. Gizzard, which is a characteristic feature of invertebrates, is present for grinding the food. Now I would like to highlight here the type of food what the earthworm consumes. It consumes soil particles, it consumes various acidic conditions, basic conditions, whatever is there in the soil it is going inside, plus the dry leaves and other waste which is fallen on ground. Now these organisms obviously don't have teeth or any grinding particles. So what happens? Grinding happens in gizzard. After that the food is stored in stomach. From stomach, where does our food go? Into small intestine. So here the intestine work is done by diplosole, another important part. So here we can understand that small intestine is divided into three parts: pre-diplozolar, then you have diplozolar, and after this, if it is still continuing, we call it as post-diplozolar. What is diplozolar? Again I repeat, it is intestine. What does our intestine do? Assimilate the food nutrients. It absorbs the nutrients. Here also the same function is done. Now other than that, what do we have? We have cecum. Here also we have intestinal cecum, which is like two horns on both the sides. Along with that, we also have lymph glands. Lymph glands are glands for protection. We also have lymph, these also have lymphs, but lymph gland is in the digestive system. I repeat, 1 prostomium, 2 peristomium, 3 buccal cavity, 4 pharynx, 8 esophagus, 9 and 10 is gizzard, then starts stomach from 11th to approximately 14 to 15 segment. 15 segment onwards pre-diplozolar region starts, then comes the intestinal cecum around the 23rd to 25th position. Then from 26 to 28 we have lymph glands, and further on we have the diplozole continuing. Now if you want to see the cross section of diplozole, it is shown here. Diplozole is folded so that you get a diplozolar region and an intestinal region. So you can make out diplozole is this region and intestine is this side region. So very clear image they have given that this part will become our intestine. And which part is diplozole? This is the diplozole region. Okay. So here is our diplozole and our intestine reaching to the point. Moving on. 5th to 7th segment esophagus, 8th to 9th segment is muscular gizzard, and gizzard, what does it do? It helps in grinding, decaying the soil particles and leaves. 9th to 14th segment is stomach, which neutralizes the acidic condition of the soil. How? It has certain glands which releases calcium. We know calcium is basic in nature and it helps in soothifying, nullifying, neutralizing the whole content in the stomach. 15th segment onwards is the intestine that continues up to the last segment. So last segment, till last segment, how many other segments are there after this? Everything has diplozole. Pair of short conical structure projects out called as cecum. So I told you we also have cecum, and before rectum we have cecum. Here also cecum is there, which is the starting point of larger intestine. Now how does this diplozole look? It is an internal median fold. We just saw that the whole region is got folded, forming intestine and diplozole. From which end? From the dorsal end. Which is dorsal? The upper part of the earthworm. From which region to which region? 26th to 35th segment it is there. We have already discussed that alimentary canal is complete, starting with mouth and ending in anus. Digestive enzyme breaks down food into simple substance and absorbs with the help of intestine. Just like us humans, there is no difference. As I have already stated when I was doing Annelida, that circulatory system is the highlight over here. It is of closed circulatory system having heart and blood vessel similar to us but not same. Before earthworm, we don't see in any other form having closed circulatory system, or if I have to tell, none of the non-chordates have closed circulatory system. Contraction keep the blood circulating in one direction, that is from heart to the blood vessels to all the tissues. So, contraction of the heart. Smaller blood vessels distribute blood to gut, nerve cord and all the parts of the body wall. So, you can see here a beautiful diagram of heart. You can see these lateral hearts being present. So, lateral hearts, 4 of them being shown here. So, these are the lateral hearts which contracts to push the blood moving in and out. You can see here subneural vessel which carries the deoxygenated blood and the commissural vessel carrying the oxygenated blood. More understanding, towards the upper end, this is the dorsal side, okay, towards the upper end it carries oxygenated blood. Towards the lower or the ventral side it carries the deoxygenated blood. Blood glands present in 4th, 5th and 6th segment produce blood cells. Now this is also important, right? We have heart, rather the blood, earthworms have heart, it has blood vessels. Now where is the blood being synthesized? In humans, where it is synthesized? It is synthesized in bone marrow. Here where it is synthesized in blood glands. Where is this present? Near the pharynx. Where was pharynx? 4th, 5th and 6th segment. There we have certain glands which produces blood cells which is called hemoglobin. Why? They have red blood. This is why. This is dissolved in plasma. So what is plasma? It has 92% of water and a small amount of nutrients, gases and waste. So what type of blood cell these are? These are phagocytic. What is phagocytic? Let's see with an example. So this is a foreign body. Foreign body could be anything. It could be a germ, bacteria, virus, whatever. So for defense mechanism, this blood cell eats. Phago means eating. Eating a cytic, eating cell. So it completely consumes of the cell, foreign body, so that it is a defense mechanism. Something similar to this in humans, we have what we call it as macrophage, that also eats away the cells, any foreign particle. Breathing takes place through moist body surface. This is why also you remember we spoke about glands being present to moist the body surface. So the air moves inside the body into the bloodstream, which makes the blood oxygenated. So you can see how the heart is present. So heart, which is circulating the blood in unidirectional system. So moving on to the excretion. Excretion, we see that there are of 3 types based on place: septal, integumentary and pharyngeal. I start with pharynx. So when you have excretory system near pharynx, we call it as pharyngeal excretion. Integumentary excretion is in the metameres. In between metameres are called as septal excretion. So we see one by one the 3 pics of it. So septal nephridia present on both sides of intersegment. So assume this is one metamere, this is another metamere. So here is where the septal nephridia is present on both sides of the segment. Integumentary nephridia, it is present on the integuments in these regions. Now, is it throughout the body? No. If you see very clearly, they have specified septal nephridia is from 15th segment to the last segment, whereas the integumentary starts from 3rd till the last. So, we will see where is pharynx present. Pharynx is present only in 3 of them, 4th, 5th and 6th. So, now let us see the pic of the nephridia. Now, first look at this pic. This is segment 1, 2, 3 and we come to 4. 4, 5 and 6. So, in 4, 5 and 6 we have pharyngeal nephridia. Now, from the third one till last, what you have? Integumentary. What is the integument region? Throughout the metamere. Then from the 15th segment downwards we have septal nephridia. Where is septa? In the concentric rings. Here is where the septa. What are these nephridia? These nephridia are funnel like structures which is present just like our Malpighian tubule and comes out like a pore. Now, the image of it is given, nephrostome, through which the excretory part enters. It goes, coil and finally there is a pore which comes out to the surface, body surface. So, you can see here this pore, this is coming out through the body surface. Now, the question is, what is the function of nephridia? We know it is a excretory organ. What does an excretory organ do? It does osmoregulation and it removes excretory waste or nitrogenous waste. So, how does it remove? It regulates the volume and composition of body fluid. If it is too much water, it removes extra water. If it is less water, more electrolytes. It will retain the water, try to remove the unwanted electrolytes. So, it is balancing. And the entire nephridia is a funnel with a tube. So, I told you there is a funnel which we call it as nephridiostoma or nephridiostome, which goes like a tube like structure, coils around and finally opens into a pore to the other end. Funnel collects all the waste. So, this is collecting zone and this is delivery zone. So, this is how a nephridia work. So, a very clear pathway we can see. Now that we have understood excretory system, we move to nervous system. We have seen in Annelida itself that nervous system is a paired ganglia which comes down like a nerve cord. But we also have said that there is a nerve ring. Now there we couldn't see a pic, here we will be seeing the pic. So here is the ganglia very clearly. Ganglia goes around like a ring, this is the ring, and then comes down as a nerve cord. So very clear diagram of nervous system. Cerebral ganglia and the nerves integrate sensory input, very important. These organisms are either aquatic or terrestrial forms. So, first input what they get is of pH. Is it acidic, is it basic? In all soil, earthworm can't stay. So, it has sensory input, senses to pH level, senses to temperature and light. As we were discussing, these organisms stay inside the soil in the burrows throughout the day and comes out only at night. So, such sensory inputs are coming from the cerebral ganglia. So, what are the sensory system? Light, touch. So, light sensitive, photosensitivities, And along with photosensitivity, we have organ or receptive cell sensitivity. It also have chemoreceptor test where the soil fertility or the soil pH is tried to understand. So, very important type of nervous system. Reproduction is very complicated. As I told, they are hermaphrodites. It has both male and female reproductive system, but they undergo cross fertilization. So, if you see, you can see testis, you also can see ovary. So, this makes us understand that they are hermaphrodite. So, very important for us to know. So, reproduction is nothing but exchange of sperm between two worms occurs during mating. And how does mating happen? With a juxtaposing of gonadial opening. What is juxtaposing? This is one organism. This is mouth. This is another organism. And you know what is this position? This is anus. This is anus. This is mouth. So that the clitellum of this one and this one comes together. What are these? Clitellum. This is called as juxtaposing. Mature sperms from, say, assuming in this case male reproductive system is active, and in this case it is female reproductive system which is active. So, male sperms come to the female sperm here and deposit like a cocoon. Here I want to remind you back, we had one part called as spermatheca. Spermatheca is a part of female reproductive system inside which sperms come, also inside which egg comes. This will now form theca like cocoons. Inside this, male and female gametes are present, which comes out of body. Once it comes out of body, then it fertilizes and forms into zygote. So, let us see, two pairs of testes are present on the same individual in the 10th and 11th segment. Vasa differentia is present in 18th segment. Two pairs of accessory gland is present in 17th and 19th segment. This is how it looks as a male reproductive system. Vasa differentia opens to the exterior by a pair of male genital pore in the 18th segment. Four pairs of spermatheca are located in the 6th to 9th segment. Try to understand it. If you understand the complete structure of earthworm, you will not have issues in getting this. The most important part is you remembering the segments. So, always remember Annelida is studied with the help of segments only. There is no other go. So, assuming this is mouth and this is anus, and you start counting them, somewhere in the 18th segment you can see male genital pore. This is what they are trying to say. 6th to 9th segment, they see spermatheca. We have already seen these points. They are summarizing it to see how the work happens. And in between these two, somewhere in around 12th, 13th position, you are having one pair of ovary. And just after the 13th position, in the 14th position here, what do you have? You have a female genital pore. What does the male genital pore do? It gives out sperm. What does the female genital pore do? It takes in the sperm. So, this is how the work happens. Moving on, you can see the juxtapositioning of the two organisms. So, in this case, very clearly you can see one organism shedding its sperm to the next organism, and in this condition the sperm is going from this direction to the other. This is how the cocoons are formed after the juxtapositioning. Out of the cocoons come new organisms which grow, mature and juxtaopposite to have the new cocoons. So, this is how the reproduction happens. Fertilization takes place within cocoon. 2 to 20 worms comes out from each cocoon. There is no larval stage, so directly it is going to form into an adult form. So, finally we understand that earthworms are friends of farmers which make soil porous and aerated by helping the gases to exchange. So, vermicompost is formed. If earthworms are there, you do not have to worry too much to give fertilizers to the plants. So, I hope you have understood today's lecture. Now that we have understood, we will discuss certain questions which we will be discussing in the online classes. In which phylum did triploblastic nature first appear? Is it in Coelenterata, Annelida, Platyhelminthes or Nemetalminthes? In parasitic flatworms, a protective layer of dash is secreted over the epidermis, cuticle, chitin, mantle or pallium. Which one of the following term is associated with nervous system of Platyhelminthes? Ganglionated, ladder type, network of nerve cells or nerve ring. Question 4. Name the phylum which has ladder type of nervous system. Platyhelminthes, Nemetalminthes, Annelida or Arthropoda. Question 5. Special excretory cell present in flatworms are Nefradia, choanocytes, flame cells or Malpighian tubules. Free living flatworms like Planaria, Bipalium are included under class Rhizopoda, Tubularia, Trematoda or Cestoda. Tinea solenium is attached to intestinal mucosa by the means of rostillum, scolex, proglottids or acetabulum. What is the common name of Fasciola hepatica? Blood fluke, liver fluke, tapeworm or water fluke. Scientific name of pork tapeworm is Schistosoma, Tinea granulosa, Tinea saginata or Tinea solenium. 10th, phylum Ascalmenthes include worms like roundworm, hookworm, filarial worm or all of these. The common name Ascaris lumbricoides is hookworm, roundworm, threadworm or earthworm. Phylum Annelida is also called Nematoda, Cestoda, Nitaria or Annulata. Metameric segment is characteristic of which one of the following? Tapeworm, Ascalmenthes, Annelida, Arthropoda. Which one of the following are the ring-like constrictions seen on the body of Annelidans? Metameres, setae, annuli or septum. Annuli are flame cell, ring-like constrictions on body of all of an Annelida, segment of a worm or whorls of shells. All the best students, meet you in online class.